Happy Friday, everyone. Welcome into another edition of Final Whistle. As always, I'm your host, Blaine Spencer. Alongside me today is one of my former Seton Hall buddies, John Pirsos. He was a broadcaster for PSN as well as for WSOU back at Seton Hall, as well as being a broadcaster at New York Tech. He now works as a news reporter at WNY-TV. John, how are we doing today, my man? Great to see you.
I don't know, Blaine. I was doing pretty good, but you just said one of your former Seton Hall buddies. Are we not friends anymore? What's the deal here, man?
I meant former in the way of Seton Hall. Come on now. Oh, my gosh, I'm going to have to eat
I got to
that one
say,
all
though, I'm
week.
excited because this is my first time talking sports on the air since March 12th, the last game I broadcasted at New York Tech. It's been all pandemic and then news since, so I'm excited for this.
So this is great. No, I miss you, man. It's great to have you on.
Yeah, this is my return to sports. I'm excited.
Yeah, excellent. All right, so for our little Friday edition, it's going to be a football frenzy today. We're going to be covering some big-time NFL, some college football, as well as, it's Friday, so I got to give it my lock it in, my 3 picks for college football and my 3 picks for the NFL for this upcoming weekend. So let's just begin with what happened last night on Thursday Night Football. I won you some money if you listened on Tuesday. Green Bay -5. You had Aaron Rodgers absolutely dominant in their 34-17 win over the San Francisco 49ers, aka the San Francisco 39ers, because nobody knows who's on that bloody team anymore. Aaron Rodgers, 25 of 31, 305, 4 touchdowns. The team was absolutely dominant on the offensive side of the ball. Devontae Adams is number 1, ended up finishing with 10 catches, 173 yards, and a score. It was just an absolute beatdown that took place last night here out in the Bay Area. As a Bay Area native, it was a little hard to watch, so I pretty much honestly turned it off at the halftime after they got 28-3. But John, what'd you see in this game last night?
Well, I mean, first of all, I don't think the results was overly surprising just because no Jimmy Garoppolo. George Kittle, he was out last night if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, they're both pretty much out for 6 weeks.
Exactly. So at this point, the team that we saw in the Super Bowl last year, it's a different team by this point. I mean, you lose probably your two of the more talented guys you have on offense. You're not beating this Green Bay team who looks really good and frankly has probably exceeded expectations. I mean, I know we always talk about Green Bay as being, one of the favorites to win the NFC North every year, be in the conversation to win the NFC. But, the narratives kind of started this year. Rodgers is getting older. He's kind of with a new coach and with LaFleur. He was injured a couple years ago. Well, what are we going to see from Rodgers this year? And he's really silenced a lot of critics. His attitude was in question for a while. Right now, is Green Bay not the favorite to win the NFC?
That's a little. I can't. There's a guy named Antonio Brown going to Tampa. I can't do it.
We'll see.
I mean, they're definitely.
They're one of the 2-3 teams right there. Yeah.
I would probably put them third at the moment, behind Seattle and Tampa Bay.
Yeah, to me, those are the 3 teams, and I would put Green Bay and Seattle as 1 and 2 before I get to Tampa, just because I got to see what happens to Brady down the stretch, because the last few years he looked like his normal self in the first, 10, 11 weeks of the season, but after Thanksgiving you saw that decline from him. Could New England weather have anything to do with it? And now you have nice Tampa weather in December. I'm sure that'll help. But we'll see what he looks like. So that's the only reason I would put Tampa third out of that group. But right now, Green Bay is rolling, and they look good. And also, I got to say, one other takeaway I've had so far, this is kind of a bad look on Mike McCarthy, is it not?
Because without a doubt. I mean, if you can't get Aaron Rodgers to be playing – Aaron Rodgers, that's just another day at the office for him at this point.
Yeah, and I got to admit, I was probably on the Mike McCarthy side for a while, in the sense that, that relationship between him and Rodgers wasn't always smooth. Who's to blame there? Probably Rodgers. But now that McCarthy's gone, he's in Dallas. Granted, I mean, he's had Dak injured and now Andy Dalton.
He's got DiNucci.
That's right. I mean, yeah, again, granted they've had those two main injuries, but Dallas really didn't look good when Dak was healthy. They were okay, nothing special. And so far, Green Bay, they haven't really missed a beat. They look pretty darn good.
I just have to ask you this one question though. They made no deal at the deadline, and I feel like that's going to hurt them down the stretch because even if I understand if you don't go get yourself a wide receiver or whatnot, but on defense they don't have a linebacker that can really tackle. They can't, like, especially against Minnesota. They just said, "I'm going to ground and pound you and take the will out of you." And that's exactly what happened when they played San Francisco and they gave up the 300 yards in the NFC Championship. I just feel I can't guarantee when they play a team that's going to just say, "I'm more physical than you, and I'm going to run it down your throat, and you have no answer." So I feel like that's the issue with them is that it's not – I think their offense is fine. I feel like would have a wide receiver helped? Absolutely, especially when you arguably have a top – I wouldn't even put it in question. You have a top 5 wide receiver in the game on your team. But still, I feel it was needed to make some type of move to try and get a linebacker or like a downhill safety that could just meet you in the box that I'm going to play physical smash mouth football with you, and I'm not afraid to do that.
Yeah, and who knows, maybe they did and nothing materialized, but I think Green Bay is relying on just winning shootouts, essentially. But like you said, especially once you get into the playoffs, defense matters. So we'll see. I don't know how that's going to play out. Usually teams that do win the Super Bowl have a viable defense. It's hard to win a Super Bowl just by winning shootouts. So who knows what would happen if they match up with a team like Seattle. I don't know, because Seattle can win shootouts.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
The one thing that scares me about the Seattle Seahawks is that they have not played a perfect game yet this season.
That's a good point.
And they easily could be undefeated, and they have not played a perfect game yet. You could say the argument's still for the Pittsburgh Steelers too. They haven't played a perfect game yet in the AFC, and they're unbeaten.
Yeah.
Those two teams have not peaked yet, and yet they're still arguably the top 2 teams in football. So, besides Kansas City, of course. But I just want to transition to San Francisco. Is their Super Bowl window over? Is it done? I think it's over. I just don't think that Jimmy G has it. Or you got to make a significant change at the quarterback position. Or
I'm not with you there yet. I think I like Jimmy Garoppolo probably more than you do. I'm not saying he's a top 5-6 quarterback in the NFL, but I think he's certainly a viable quarterback. I mean, you got to a Super Bowl with him last year. Granted, the roster around him was loaded at virtually every position, but just as a talent, I like Garoppolo. His relationship with the head coach, who's escaping my name, Shanahan.
Yep.
I think, again, he's on the younger side. They keep working together. They'll figure things out. I think maybe this immediate window is closed. Maybe they need to rebuild a year or two and start over in a way. But I don't think this Shanahan-Garoppolo tandem is going anywhere for the next, 8 years or so. I think they'll figure things out. And I like their front office.
No, they have a great front office.
Yeah, so I think they'll figure things out.
I've just been hearing rumors just from the people I know in the Bay Area that a Matt Ryan move is a possibility just because of the relationship.
What's the upgrade with Matt Ryan? I mean, first of all,
the guy who's not going to turn the ball over.
First of all, he's much older. What's he doing with Atlanta? That's so special. I mean, seriously, if you look at Matt Ryan's career, he's had one or two.
Stinks.
Yeah, okay. But how long has he had Julio Jones and a good running back core? And it's okay, great. You had the 15 in 1 year, and you made the Super Bowl, which they choked away. But outside of that 1 year, it's been good, not great.
It's all valid, but I'm just telling you what I'm hearing. That Matt Ryan is
I'm not denying that,
significant possibility from what I'm hearing from around here.
If you're asking me right now, I'm San Francisco, and I have a choice of keeping Garoppolo or moving on to Matt Ryan. I'm sticking with Garoppolo, and it's a no-brainer. That's just me.
All right. All right. So
Disagreement makes the world go around, my friend.
I know. So all right. So we're going to transition to a couple of significant college football games that are happening this weekend. That's making a significant impact on what could potentially happen in the college football playoff. First off, we're going to start with potentially the next game of the century that's going to be happening, which is we have the Notre Dame Fighting Irish at number 4 in the country hosting the number 1 Clemson Tigers. As everyone knows, Trevor Lawrence will not be playing due to COVID protocols and testing positive for the virus. But more than anything, this is probably Notre Dame's best chance to beat them because they will probably have to play them twice. So, John, what do you see here on this Notre Dame-Clemson matchup? Clemson's going up to South Bend. The weather's supposed to be okay. It's not going to be frigid cold like it usually is in November. So, what do you see out of the Clemson Tigers?
Listen, this one's really not rocket science. No Trevor Lawrence means Clemson's not going to win.
Really?
I think Clemson's the better team, but take out Trevor Lawrence. Notre Dame's at home. They're going to win. And I think this is a college football playoff preview. I think these two teams very well could meet in the 14 playoff. I don't think a loss either way closes the door to the playoff for either team. So I think it's a big game, obviously, because it's 1 versus 4. But, if Clemson loses without Trevor Lawrence, if they get him back next week and probably win out the rest of the season, they're back in the college football playoff. If Notre Dame loses, you say, all right, well, they lost the number 1 team in the country. If they win out, they're probably back in the college football playoff, especially because they're in a conference this year. They have a better chance of getting in. So I think Notre Dame wins, being at home. And, without the most talented player in college football, it's an uphill battle for Clemson.
As a Notre Dame fan, that is
I know you like to hear that.
That's music to my ears. Music. But I'm gonna try and stay level-headed. I'm not gonna be biased here. More than anything, I feel like this is Notre Dame's only chance because I feel like this is their best chance to beat them. They're gonna have to probably match up again in the ACC championship, and if you can't, and with Trevor Lawrence, I think it's easily 10 times harder to beat Clemson because he makes Clemson go. So I feel like this is a must-win for the Irish in comparison to Clemson because you're going to have Trevor Lawrence back. Clemson's schedule is a lot easier down the stretch. Notre Dame still has to go to Boston College that almost upset Clemson last week. And then you have to go to North Carolina against a Mac Brown squad that their offense can score a lot of points, so that game could turn into a shootout as well. So this is definitely a bigger game for Notre Dame because if they have to beat Clemson in the ACC championship, and if they lose to them again, they're done. So definitely a 2-loss Irish team to Clemson is not going to get in, so they have to at least split these meetings to have a chance. Got to stay competitive. Ultimately, I think it's going to come down to the physicality that Notre Dame displays on the defensive side of the ball. They're arguably the best defense in the country. They're yielding under 10 points a game. So it's going to be a matchup of offense versus defense. And the freshman quarterback, I can't say his name, DJ Ugalele. That's as close as I can get.
But does it rhyme with Tagovailoa?
Yeah, exactly. He looked really good last week in that second half, so I think he's going to make some plays. I think it's all going to come down to the run game of Clemson versus the rush defense of the Irish. Travis Etienne is the team. They're going to be a heavy load of Etienne. So.
Yeah, and you mentioned Notre Dame's defense. That's going to keep Clemson at bay, and just with the fact that they still have a pretty explosive offense just in terms of running backs and wide receivers. But again, take Trevor Lawrence out of the equation. It's hard to. Again, they almost lost to Boston College last week. This is Notre Dame on the road. So, just out of curiosity, what's the fan situation at Notre Dame? Do they let fans in at a?
They're letting in 20%. So they're letting in students.
Okay.
It's 20% max. Students, faculty, and family members of both teams.
Yeah, I think Notre Dame wins this one, especially for some of the reasons you laid out. If they have to play him again with a ticket to the college football playoff on the line, that's with a
It's
they
going to be a little
hopefully
bit
cover
harder for
that.
them. Yeah. I
Yes,
think
so this is
this is their
their opportunity.
opportunity. Exactly.
Yes, so they got to pull it out.
All right, the second big time matchup is the University of Florida versus University of Georgia rivalry game that's also going to be taking place on Saturday. As we know, Georgia and Florida both have one loss, but they're the two front runners in the SEC East. This is the game that decides who gets to play Alabama in the championship game, if I'm being completely honest. Because
Yeah.
Alabama's schedule's a wrap basically for them the rest of the year, especially the way that they're playing. They're playing unstoppable football. John, I want to get your take here because the whole Georgia quarterback situation is a huge question mark. And I talked about this with Ryan Patty on Tuesday. Just how like, where are you going to go? Like Stetson Bennett, he's the walk-on. He hasn't looked good. He's been okay. I feel like you have to make the transition to JT Daniels, which may happen this week if Bennett doesn't play well in the first half. Daniels is the transfer out of USC. He's got a cannon of an arm. I've heard of him since his high school days down in Southern California. So I just want to get your take on the Georgia quarterback situation, what you see from what's going to happen in this game. It's a neutral site in Jacksonville, by the way.
Well, I'm not going to front here. I don't know much about either quarterback at Georgia. I think this is an interesting game, though, because for a couple of reasons. Number one, first of all, like you said, winner essentially plays Alabama in the SEC championship game. So both these teams know this is a de facto championship game here. As far as Florida goes, they've been largely quiet in the SEC post Tim Tebow. They haven't made a whole lot of noise. This, again, so like championship hopes aside, in a way, this is a statement game for Florida to say, we're back. We're back. We are relevant in this conference. Georgia has been very good in the SEC in recent years. Now they're getting over the Jake Fromm hangover, or I don't know, hangover is probably not the right word, but the transition from Jake Fromm. So is this Florida maybe winning a game against a big team in their own conference to say, we're back. We can compete with the big dogs, pun intended, in this conference?
I couldn't agree more. This is Florida's statement game, just like how pretty much this was the last. Notre Dame has their statement game this week. These are two statement wins for two
Top
programs.
10 matchup, primetime TV. This is their chance to show the country we're back and we belong.
Absolutely. And I'm going to give you a name here. Kyle Pitts, the tight end from Florida, is arguably the best tight end of football in college football. He's going to be a first-round pick. Watch for him. He is a red zone nightmare. And Georgia was shown against Alabama that they are prone against the pass. So Kyle Trask, remember, he was the quarterback that came in last year after Felipe Franks got hurt for Florida and put them on a little springboard here. And I think this is a huge statement game after especially losing to Texas A&M a couple of weeks ago. They've had the layoff. Then they came back last week due to COVID. So I think this will be a statement game to especially see where Florida's at after the whole COVID situation. You had a little bit of an easy game to get back in playing Missouri. So it's kind of you're gonna amp up the intensity now by like 10 notches in a rivalry game. So it'll be interesting to see where Florida's physicality and their athleticism is at, especially after the whole COVID layoff for a couple weeks. So.
And it's one of those things that has never – obviously the COVID thing hasn't happened before, but how it relates to sports is these kind of unexpected bye weeks and days off in the middle of the week where all of a sudden you can't practice anymore. How does that affect a team? We'll see.
Exactly. I don't know. So it'll be very interesting to think about. All right, so let's transition now to my favorite segment of every Friday. It's called Lock It In. So it's my 3 locks for college football and my 3 locks for the NFL. I apologize. I lost you guys money last weekend. I went 2-4. It puts me at 500 on the year. So I went 2-4, 1-2 in college, 1-2 in the NFL. So that means I need to step my game up. So I did a lot more research this week to make sure that I can help you guys win some money. All right. I know John's got some picks too. So John, how we're going to do this? I'll give my pick, and then you'll give your pick, and we'll go back and forth. All right.
Beautiful. Sounds good.
All right, so I've got a little bit of a shocker to start. I know John knows that college football is my niche. So I have number 25 Liberty. They're getting 15 against Virginia Tech this weekend. I'm going to take that plus 15, over 2 touchdown underdog for a team that's undefeated, 6-0. I know their quality of competition has been a little bit low, but they've got a great coach that people don't even realize is there. They got Hugh Freeze, the old Miss head coach, that is now the coach of the Liberty Flames after the whole little scandal situation that took place at Ole Miss. So it's going to be very interesting to see how to do that. And they have a quarterback that can run and pass, Malik Willis. He's a name to watch out for, especially if Liberty can somehow run the table and maybe sneak into that potential non-Power 5 school and make one of those big bowl games per se. And Virginia Tech is giving up 30 points a game on the defensive side of the ball. So, I mean, Virginia Tech's defense is not as vaunted as it usually is when they used to be under Frank Beamer. So I think this could be a game where within 2 touchdowns, a top 25 team that's undefeated could easily maintain that. So I'm going to take Liberty plus 15 here. It's at Virginia Tech, but I think Liberty can at least be within 2 scores. I don't think they'll win the game, but I think they have a great chance of at least covering the spread.
All right, my pick number 1, 13th ranked Indiana against Michigan. Michigan's favorite 3.5. I'll take Michigan, and here's why. First of all, Michigan, they don't want to fall under 500. And the fact that they're road favorites tells you what Vegas thinks of Michigan. They're the better football team on the field. And, I mean, Jim Harbaugh, his reputation has kind of been in the mix, just in, where is he taking this Michigan football program? Is this the year where they bottom out in a way, fall out of the top 25, and really just don't put up a fight in the Big Ten? I don't think it's that year. But at some point, Michigan has to get back in the conversation. They're a borderline top 25 team right now. They need to come out with a win. Indiana, they're coming off a game where they beat Rutgers, who, what's Rutgers? Obviously. They're coming off that win. Granted, they had a big win against Penn State. They upset Penn State, but overall, I don't know how sold I am on Indiana being anything special. I think this is a game Michigan needs. I'll pick them to win by 4, at least 4.
I know you wanted to touch upon Rutgers. They play Ohio State today.
Yeah, so real quick, listen, the outcome of this game is not in question. Ohio State's going to win, but Ohio State over the past 5, 6 years, whatever it's been, has wiped the floor with Rutgers. 50-point, 60-point wins, games over halfway through the first quarter. This weekend, Ohio State is favorites by, I believe, 38 points against Rutgers.
Around there, 37.
Right. So Rutgers is trying to make this comeback. They beat Michigan State week 1, lost to Indiana by 2 scores last weekend. Again, is Rutgers making any noise in the Big Ten this year? No. But it's year 1 of getting Greg Schiano back. It's an interesting team to follow, especially me being from New Jersey. I know we're Seton Hall guys, but they're the football team to kind of keep an eye on in the area. So I'm just curious, what do they do against a real opponent like Ohio State? Do they lose by 50 again, or do they keep it to a reasonable 25 points? I don't know. It's not a game I'm betting on.
I'm not touching that spread.
No.
Because you just don't know especially with how good Ohio State is on offense. But I agree, especially, if that lateral play ends up counting, it's a whole new game. I'm just saying.
First of all, I don't care that it didn't count. That's one of the craziest plays I've ever seen.
Exactly. Yeah, and I like that Michigan pick. I think it's going to be interesting. I think that game is going to be very tight, especially I think Indiana has tried to showcase that they're pretty much the last hoop I think that Ohio State's going to have, if you even call that a hoop, because I feel like the Big Ten is just so down, and it's Ohio State or bust at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But all right, so for my next pick, transition to the team that beat Florida already this year. I'm taking Texas A&M -10 over
I was
South
thinking about
Carolina.
that game. I was thinking
Yeah,
about
no,
it. I like the pick.
yeah, I love this pick. Honestly, you have a South Carolina team that's still is in a little bit of a rebuild at the moment. They've lost a couple of their key components on the outside, as well as a quarterback. They're putting in a new quarterback. Kellen Mond, a 3 or 4 year starter now. I think Texas A&M under Jimbo Fisher has finally turned a corner here, especially with finally beating a top 10 opponent when they beat Florida a couple weeks back. So I think this is a critical component for them. I think if they want to be any chance of having outside opportunity to sneak into the playoff, they got to win out and win pretty dominantly. They got to show off the eye test here. So I think Texas A&M, I think they can easily win by -10. So I'm going to take them over the Gamecocks.
I like the pick. For my second pick, Texas the 22nd ranked Texas hosting West Virginia. Texas is favored 6.5. I'll take West Virginia with the points, and here's why. That's a big rivalry game, and those games are always close. I don't care if they're in Morgantown or in Austin. Those games come down to the wire, and for the most part, Texas has been underwhelming this year. This was a team that was thinking about going to the college football playoff, or at least being in the conversation of those top 4 teams. And they have been very underwhelming. Now with a 4-2 record, which is an identical record as West Virginia, if I'm not mistaken. So I think this is a really close game. I think Texas wins. I don't think they win by a touchdown, though.
Is it in Austin or in Morgantown?
It's in Austin.
Okay. If it was in Morgantown, I would definitely take that spread, especially after what? Especially after West Virginia did the Kansas State last week.
Yeah.
And Kansas State was playing for their outside shot of sneaking into the playoff. They absolutely were dominant. Texas saved Tom Herman saved his job last week. If he loses to Oklahoma State, he's probably gone, because he probably ends up losing at least 1 or 2 more times at the end of the year, and the team would have fallen apart. But not a bad pick. I like it. West Virginia is a very competitive team. Those games are always relatively close.
If you told me today that West Virginia won by a field goal, would you be shocked?
No.
I wouldn't be overly shocked. No.
I wouldn't be shocked, because I just don't know what I'm going to get out from Texas week to week. So they're just too inconsistent for me to be so reliant on them.
So,
you know what I mean?
And just the fact that they're getting a touchdown or close to a touchdown, I'll take West Virginia with the ball.
All right, so for my last pick, here we go. I've got Northwestern -3.5 over Nebraska. You got a Northwestern team, 2-0 to start the year. You got a Nebraska team that had to take the week off last week after the whole Wisconsin COVID situation, so that game was canceled. And then Nebraska tried to schedule a non-conference game, but Big Ten said, yeah, not a chance. You're the reason that we're back here playing. We would, if it was our real opportunity, we wouldn't even be playing. I think the Big Ten honestly has it out for Nebraska. I'm not going to comment on that, but it's just what I think. But Northwestern, relatively surprising to start the year. They've got a solid quarterback in Peyton Ramsey, the transfer out of Indiana, who was very solid for the past 2 years for the Hoosiers. But they beat a Maryland team very soundly. They also just beat Minnesota last week in overtime. They beat them by 35+. And then they snuck out a game versus a very solid Iowa team, beating them by sneaking out a win there in Iowa, 21-20. I think Northwestern's not going to be a huge powerhouse in the Big Ten, but I don't trust what Nebraska's doing at the moment. They had the week off. I just don't know what they're doing at quarterback. They've been playing a 2-quarterback system to start. I don't think that'll work. Northwestern has always been known for their defense, so I think it's going to be a low-scoring matchup. I'll take the 3.5 right now at the Northwestern.
My last college football pick, and frankly, I don't know. I almost feel like this one's too good to be true. We'll see. But right now, Clemson, Notre Dame. Clemson is favored by 5 points. I just did I saw it this morning. I said, that can't be right. I don't know. I saw it again just 5 minutes ago. I did a quick Google search just to make sure that was right. Clemson's favored by 5 on the road with no
It
Trevor
opened up
Lawrence.
at 8. It opened up at 8.
It opened up at 8.
It's
Yeah,
already gone down
so
3 points.
this
They're betting
feels like
heavy
an
on
easy
Notre
pick for
Dame.
Notre Dame. Yeah, I mean, Notre Dame's +5 at home feels like an easy pick. I don't know. Maybe Vegas knows something. This feels like one of those games where Vegas knows something that I don't. But on paper, this feels like a gimme, and that's usually when you're wrong. So, but I'll stick with Notre Dame +5.
I love it. I'm very hopeful now after you've already picked them to win, and now you're taking them on the point. So at least
I mean,
it's going to be a close game.
getting points.
Give me Notre Dame and with a chance in the fourth quarter. I would sign up for that right now. Even if they're down if they're down by a touchdown, I'll take that going into the fourth.
Yeah, I mean, Clemson could win this game by a field goal, which would be impressive because they don't have Trevor Lawrence, yet you win the bet still. So
yeah, I agree there.
that's a big line to cover without Trevor Lawrence. It really is. So give me Notre Dame +5 at home.
All righty. So we have our picks. We put them in. I've got Liberty +15, Texas A&M -10, and Northwestern -3.5. John, just run through your 3 again. What do you got?
I had let me look back.
Notre Dame +5.
I have Notre Dame +5. I have West Virginia +6.5 and Michigan -3.5.
All right, so look out, people.
In.
Lock it in. Love it. Lock it in. So, all right, now we're going to transition to our NFL picks. So, for me to start, I got Buffalo +3 versus Seattle. I know that people are it's going to be interesting.
You took my pick, Wayne.
What, do you have Buffalo too?
I have Buffalo +3. My first pick is Buffalo +3.
Virtual 5 right there. Virtual 5. I love
Right.
I don't like the pick. I love the pick. Buffalo at home has been very dominant, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Josh Allen has made that extra step that I think people need to see from year 2 to year 3. And I think the acquisition of Stephon Diggs has made this offense a lot more lethal than people think. Seattle's defense, as many people know, has been abysmal. Could be any word of nice.
Yeah.
But I think +3 at home is almost a no-brainer. I know Russell Wilson's a beast, and I know he'll somehow have a great game. And DK Metcalf is what people are saying the second coming of Megatron. So, but I mean,
which seems accurate, honestly.
Yeah, it seems accurate. Physical specimen.
Yes.
But I love Buffalo +3 at home. I think this is a big game for the Bills, especially if they want to showcase that they're a legitimate potential contender this year. I think they're still a year away, if I'm being completely honest. But I think this is a statement game for the Bills to show that they're ready to play now. So I like Buffalo +3 at home.
Yeah, I mean, Buffalo, I mean, there's been, I mean, how many jokes about Buffalo and the Bills for the past how many years? 20 years running jokes among NFL fans. They've kind of been one of the laughing stocks of the league for a long time. But Josh Allen looks good. McDermott can coach. Their defense is terrific. Was last year. It's good again this year. They just beat New England. This stat is almost impossible to believe. They just beat New England last week at home for the first time in 9 years. That's unbelievable. Look it up.
Ridiculous.
Ridiculous. Granted, New England is, a far cry this year than from what they were in previous years. But mentally and morally for Buffalo, that goes a long way. On top of that, Seattle, West Coast team, they have to come play East. Time
Early
difference.
start, yep.
Always a factor. I love Russell Wilson. He's my pick to win MVP this year. I've been a huge Russell Wilson fan. They might even sneak out a win. This might be one of those games where Buffalo is up by 5 or 6 late, and Russell Wilson leads the team, down, 1 minute, 80 yards, something ridiculous, and they score a touchdown. But Buffalo's getting 3 points at home. Give me Buffalo +3.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. All right, so secondly, this game actually the spread has gone to even in this game. So the LA Chargers were favored, but it's already dropped to even this morning. But I love Las Vegas. I know Justin Herbert is an absolute stud. blown everyone out of the water what they thought they were going to get. And
Yeah.
I think the Chargers now have their quarterback for the next
Yeah.
decade, without a doubt. The kid can make all the throws, but I think defensively they're a huge liability, especially last week after blowing a huge lead against Denver.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be very deflating.
And Denver's offense is nothing to write home about.
Yeah, exactly. And then you have a Las Vegas team that's got a really good chance of sneaking out with a wild card spot, and they're the team. They beat Cleveland last week, especially in windy conditions. They were able to manage that game, especially Vegas last week to beat Cleveland. So I'm gonna stick with my horses here. They're my one pick that I got right. So ride Vegas. I'm riding Vegas again, Las Vegas, to win outright. Well, it is even, so it's a pick 'em. So I'm gonna take Vegas there.
Like the pick. My second pick is Baltimore against the Colts. Baltimore. Why are you laughing?
That's my third pick.
Well, I'm taking Baltimore minus a 1.5. Baltimore is not the same team we saw last year. Their offense just hasn't been quite as explosive as it was a year ago. I think teams are starting to figure out Lamar Jackson in a way. I think he's still a really good quarterback, and he will be for a long time in this league. But I think the Ravens just need a bounce-back win after losing to Pittsburgh by 4 points last week. And losing to Pittsburgh by 4 points right now is not a bad thing. This is still a really good Baltimore Ravens team, and they only need to cover 1.5 against the Colts, who have surprised me this year. They've been better than I thought, but I think that's a win for Baltimore.
And I concur. That was my third pick for today. So I just don't – Phillip Rivers has been way too inconsistent for me to be honed in on – to buy in on the Colts. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially – I have Lamar Jackson on my fantasy team. He blew it for me last week. That's why I lost. But with the 4 turnovers, but they put up 280 yards on the ground on Pittsburgh, and everyone thought that was impossible. And they put up 160 on them not even. I think it was more than that, 180 in the first half. So, and Baltimore had that game won if they just don't turn the ball over in the red zone. You just kick 2 field goals and you win on those 2 fumbles by Lamar. But so I like Baltimore as well. I think they need to put in a reset. But I think Greg Roman needs to understand that Lamar Jackson is more than just a quarterback. He's probably the best athlete in the league. Like, let him just be him. Like, let him be like the guy that he was last year. If he does, after 1 or 2 reads, if he doesn't see it, let him just go make a Michael Vick-esque play. Like, just let the man go. It's
like the thing that's going on in Seattle.
They put chains on him. Exactly. They've literally put chains on him and said, you have to be a pocket passer. And I'm like,
yeah, it's
why?
like Russell Wilson. Sometimes just let Russ cook. Let Russ play. Same thing with Lamar Jackson. Just take the training wheels off. Let him go.
Let it become a backyard football game and let the man put some guys on their butts.
Yes.
All right. Let him put a spin move out and put a juke on. Let somebody eat it and just start playing some football.
Yep. No, totally agree. Like the pick. For my last pick, this one is a total no-brainer. Picking against this team has been a total no-brainer all season. Monday Night Football, Jets and Patriots. Patriots are -7. It's a total no-brainer. The Jets are 0-8, and they're 1-7 against the spread this year. There's nothing even to discuss. This team, Blaine, you know this. I'm a Jets fan. The Jets are so embarrassingly bad. The gap between the Jets and like the other 2 and 3 worst teams in the league is the Grand Canyon. They are so far away from the rest of the league that the Patriots, 2-5, they're not good this year. They're favorite by a touchdown. And I believe it's a home game for the Jets. I'm pretty sure it's a home game for the Jets. I mean, It's totally ridiculous. And I don't even need to think twice about this one. I would pick New England to cover a 14-point spread against the Jets.
Oh, no.
I mean,
I've got a question for you. I know the Giants and the Jets are the 2 worst teams in football right now. How much would the Giants beat the Jets by?
Right now I would say 10 points. And the
That
Giants
big,
are bad.
you think it's that big of a gap?
Oh, the Jets. It's not. They haven't even been competitive. They've been competitive in one game this year. That was that Thursday night game against Denver when they had their second string.
Fourth string quarterback in.
Yeah, I mean, they had no quarterback in there. That was the only game the Jets were competitive in. And because of a late kind of garbage time touchdown by Denver, they still won by double digits. I mean, again, there's nothing to think about. Patriots are winning by more than a touchdown. Oh, and one more thing just to add to it. The Jets notoriously are terrible on Monday Night Football. New England's always prepared. Give me Bill Belichick. Right now, the Patriots are angry. Bill Belichick is angry. They need a slump buster. That's the Jets for them. They're going to use the Jets as an absolute punching bag on primetime football to try and steer the conversation back to, oh, maybe New England can, make a run at things this year and string a few wins together, because right now the narrative around New England is, oh, well, clearly they're missing Brady right now. They need a win to change that narrative. They're going to beat the hell out of the Jets.
I'm just
No
sorry.
brainer.
I'm just sorry for Monday Night Football. That they have to be in the East Rutherford, New Jersey for two straight weeks.
What executive put this game on Monday Night Football?
Well, they put the Giants against the Bucks last week. At least that game turned into a game because if the Bucks blew them out, this week would be so critical to be a good game. Like otherwise, the Monday Night Football people would probably be the people that the executives or whoever does the scheduling would be fired.
Yeah.
So, but I agree with you there. I mean, the Jets are just atrocious.
Again, the Jets are 1-7 against the spread this year, and the one game where they covered the spread was last week against Kansas City. Kansas City was favored by 20 or 19 or something.
I thought the Chiefs covered that.
Did the Chiefs cover? Then it was 2 weeks ago. Whoever the Jets played 2 weeks ago, I don't remember who.
I don't know, but
it was recent. It was last couple weeks. The Jets covered the spread when they lost by 14 or something. I don't remember. Maybe it was Buffalo. I think it was that Buffalo.
Oh, it was Buffalo. Yeah. You're right. It was Buffalo.
But that's still. It wasn't even a competitive game. So pick the Patriots. You're welcome.
All right, John. Well, that wraps up another edition of Final Whistle. John, I want to thank you for coming on today and taking your one of your days off to hop on and talk some sports with me. I appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. Great to talk some sports again.
And I'm going to correct myself now. He is my Seton Hall buddy. He's not my former.
That's right.
I got that wrong on the air. I was just saying former Seton Hall, and then buddy came out. But it
words
just
matter, Blaine. Words matter.
I know. I just hurt John's feelings. He's not going to talk to me for another 2 weeks. So, well, happy Friday, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day, and everyone's enjoy your football weekend. Good day.